Mr. Chairman, are we ready to begin the meeting?
Yes, go ahead.
Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And I'll ask that you remain standing for a moment of silence for the victims in the mass shooting that occurred in Charleston, South Carolina. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. At this time, I'd like to offer a moment of silence for the 9 victims who tragically lost their lives at the historical Mother Emanuel AME Church as they were attending Bible study this past Wednesday night. Among those who lost their lives was the state senator and pastor of the church, Democrat Clementa Pinckney, and there were 3 survivors of this horrific tragedy. Our thoughts, condolences, and prayers are with the victims, survivors, and their families who were affected by this catastrophic event. May we please engage in a moment of silence for those who lost their lives in the mass shooting in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you. You may take your seat. Mr. Chairman, we're ready to present the monthly report acting as the Master at Arms.
Okay, thank you, Bethany.
Now, to start off our monthly announcements, I'd like to announce that our chairman, Mr. DeFelice, is a nominee for new transportation research committees being formed in 2015. And in accordance to adhering to the compliance of the West Virginia Open Ethics Act, the submission of this month's meeting to West Virginia's Secretary of State website was 1 day late to meet compliance regulations. Therefore, this meeting is non-compliant according to the West Virginia Open Ethics Act. In addition to the submission of the meeting to the West Virginia Secretary of State website, other submissions of the meeting were included in the West Virginia State Journal, the Weirton, Steubenville, and Wheeling local newspapers, and the current email listings for affiliations with the port, its members, and the public. In conclusion, the meeting was posted as an event on WAPA's website, as well as an event on the Weirton Area Port Authority Facebook page. Are there any questions? I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Chairman.
Okay, now what we'll do to get started is we'll do the roll call. Doug Velwell.
Here.
Dan Spicker.
Here.
Bethany Goddard.
Here.
Santoro is absent. Mark Liptus is absent. Farley Wood.
Here.
Ed Littlejohn. Martin, is Ed on the phone?
He's supposed to be.
Okay,
He just texted me and said he was dialing in.
okay, we'll catch him. Martin Phillips, that's you. You're here. John Wargo.
Here.
John Wargo. Okay, so I think we've got everybody. So we'll wait for Ed. The next item is adoption of agenda, and I know we're going to probably address.
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we, after going through
Hold
resolution.
on, let me motion to discuss the agenda. Motion first, Dan Spicker, second. Farley. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I would like to propose is that when we go through VR 113 and VR 114, that we go into a brief executive session and then come back and vote, so that the board could have the opportunity to discuss a few things. There's some private individuals involved in this, so I think it's prudent we actually take the time to, have that executive session and come back and vote in the public meeting.
Does anybody have any objection with adjusting the executive session up? All in favor of moving the executive session up, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so and then now we can accept the agenda. Motion.
Second.
Dan, Doug, all in favor of accepting the agenda as discussed?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so that's the agenda. Approval of previous minutes. Motion to discuss the minutes, or we're going to miss the minutes. Farley motions, a second.
Second.
Comments or questions about the minutes? Thanks, Ed. We got you. Thanks for being here. That's okay. Paul, any comments or questions on minutes? No comments or questions, all in favor of approving the May 27, 2015 board minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You guys voting on the phone there? I don't hear anybody. All right, so minutes passed. Where are we on the slides here? Previous minutes, old business. There we are, old business. All right. I got a couple of items I want to read into the record. No voting, I don't believe on any of these. There's 3 items. The first one is the 2009 City of Weirton Ordinance 1656. And the reason we're putting these in the record is to help identify some of the historical documents and the structures and the agreements that are in place, and so I want to make sure that are covered in the records. And I'll read this. It's Ordinance 1656. And this was back when the Port Authority bylaws were not yet established. At that time, the city was oversighting the appointments of the board, and they established an ordinance, and I'll read it to you. Ordinance 1656, whereas the Weirton Port Authority hereby reduces the number of members from 7 to 5 members, and whereas it will be required that one Port Authority member be a member of the council appointed by the mayor for their term of office, and when their term of office expires, that the mayor shall appoint another council member to the authority. Now therefore let it resolve, or now therefore be it ordained by the common council of the city of Weirton, Brooke, and Hancock counties, West Virginia, that the Weirton Port Authority reduce their members from 7 to 5 members, and that one member is required to be a member of the council appointed by the mayor for a term of their office, and when their term of office expires, that the mayor shall appoint another council member to the authority. We had 3 readings. The first was July 13, 2009, publication began on July 29, 2009, and second reading, I guess, August 10, 2009. Signed by the mayor and the clerk. So that's it for the record. So that's when we talk about appointments and seats that we have for the city and the counties. That's an example of specifics and what's behind it. That was the readings by the city. The next item is a port security grant memorandum of agreement that was signed between Weirton Area Port Authority, Inc., which is Wayne, the city of Weirton, Brooke, Hancock, Jefferson, Metropolitan Planning Commission, which is BHJ, and the West Virginia Public Port Authority. Memorandum of agreement regarding port security grants. All right, well, I'm going to summarize this. The parties in this memorandum of agreement are Weirton Area Port Authority, Inc., which is the non-profit of this port authority. Brooke, Hancock, Jefferson, Metropolitan Planning Commission, and on behalf of Brooke and Hancock counties, West Virginia. The City of Weirton Public Corporation on behalf of the City of Weirton, West Virginia, political subdivision of the state of West Virginia. And the West Virginia Public Port Authority on behalf of the Department of Transportation, political subdivision of the state of West Virginia. The purpose, I'll read the purpose, and then we all 4 did sign this back in 2011 on February 14th. The purpose of the MOA is to set forth a mutual understanding of the parties related to intended use of federal funds outlined in grant submissions and investment justifications to be made under the fiscal year 2010 supplement and fiscal year 2011 infrastructure protection activities port security grant program, and to outline the general concept of integration of individual projects consistent with the 5-year sector risk mitigation security plan developed for the area maritime security subcommittee of the United States Coast Guard, MSU Pittsburgh. Prior to expenditure of any grant funds awarded under the PSGP, appropriate agreements will be executed consistent with the understandings set forth in applicable program guidelines. So, back in 2011, we agreed to work together as a group on some of this funding for the port security related aspects, and so I just want to make sure that everybody on the board was aware and remember the documents, and as we go through, we'll probably have more of these to correct. You guys have any comments or questions? All right, there's another one. One third one. The third one is a 2013 determination by the state auditor of the Weirton Area Port Authority. And we have on the slide some bullets, and I'll read those. Port authorities have characteristics of both political subdivision and instrumentality of the state. If no state or local funding is used, then most likely then this is considered a standalone organization. Port authorities can receive material amount of federal, state, and local funding. Port Authority performs essential governmental services pursuant to its statute and bylaws with the potential for significant public funding. And Port authorities are charged by law with the performance of a governmental function and may be entrusted with public funds. Therefore, they are political subdivisions. So that was a validation by the auditor's office. And this was April 23rd, 2013. The Port Authority is a valid political subdivision in the state of West Virginia. I'm going to make sure we get those in. So this is what Dan, we're at the new business, and Dan mentioned about reading these resolutions, and then our discussions, some of them will be in executive session, and then at the end of the meeting, we'll comments and questions. So what I think we'll do is if we can get a motion to read, now do you want to go through the slides before the executive session? So why don't we get a motion to read both resolutions,
Okay.
and then discussions will occur, what we can discuss out here, and then we'll go back to executive session before we vote. Does that make sense? All right, so resolution 113. We read it first, and then we motion to discuss, and then if there's something to discuss on 14.
Just give us a podium or here.
We can do it wherever we're comfortable.
That way we can hear it on the
Wherever we're
Facebook, we can hear it on the internet. All right. All right, Board Resolution 113, 2015, Credit Facility Authorization. This was offered by the Executive Director and introduced by myself, Dan Spicker, Board Member. Reference Board BR 100-215 authorizes Inland Services LLC to provide affiliate services. A Weirton Area Port Authority WAPA Board resolution for the purpose of authorizing the establishment of the WAPA credit facility. Whereas the WAPA Board recognizes that a legal financial structure is required to ensure sound fiscal management of the planned equity and bond debt. And whereas the WAPA Board authorizes under BR 100-2015 the formation of Inland Services LLC, to finance the company and execute WAPA's mission through affiliate service agreements. Therefore, let it be resolved that Inland Services LLC, also known as ISL, shall establish the WAPA credit facility providing equity and debt financing to the WAPA Port District. And further resolved that the Board authorizes ISL and the WAPA not-for-profit Weirton Area Port Authority, Inc., also known as WINC, to form a business relationship for developing the servicing, debt, financing, and further resolve that ISL shall provide the WAPA partners and preferred suppliers access to the WAPA credit facility through affiliate service agreements, and further resolve that ISL shall provide the following. 1. Manage project debt financing for WAPA, WINC, and business affiliates such as strategic partners and preferred suppliers. And 2. Establish the legal, financial, and business structures to ensure the income for ISL, strategic business partners, and preferred suppliers are sufficient to service the debt, and A, strategic partners include, but are not limited to, West Virginia Real Estate Trust, LLC, West Virginia Port Communications, LLC, and Tri-State Port Management, LLC. And preferred suppliers include, but are not limited to, Gracie Contractors, Pinnacle Group, and Greco Plumbing and Heating. In witness hereof, the undersigned duly qualified WAPA officers certified that the foregoing is true and correct copy of the resolution adopted at a legally convened meeting the Weirton Area Port Authority held on today's date. Thank you. June 24th, 2015. All right, any questions? Okay. Moving on to Port Resolution 114-2015, Operating Concession Fee, authored by Office of the Executive Director, introduced by myself, Dan Spicker, Board Member. BR 87, 2015, operating concession, intermodal rail terminal. BR 69-2013, port future fund. A Weirton Area Port Authority board resolution for the purpose of defining the distribution of intermodal rail terminal, IRT, operating concession fee. Whereas the WAPA board further recognizes that in change for the exclusive right to provide services related to the operations of the intermodal rail terminal, the concession holder shall pay WAPA a concession fee. And whereas the board recognizes that it authorizes other activities relating to the office of the executive director, master at arms, and other WAPA public benefit projects, such as those supported by WAPA's not-for-profit entity, Weirton Area Port Authority, Inc., also known as WINC. And whereas the board recognizes that it authorized a formal investment instrument, the WAPA Future Fund, also known as the Fund, to be used to assist with financing WAPA's master plan. Therefore, let it be resolved that the executive director shall ensure the following fee schedule be included in the contract for an operating concession of the IRT. 1. Upfront cash payment, $2,500,000. 2. Quarterly payments based on a minimum payment and an additional amount based upon profit sharing on a pro rata of the annualized concession holder's gross profit margin, also known as GPM, for the following. A. For the first year, the profit sharing shall be 15% share of gross profits. And B. For the second and successive years, the profit sharing shall be as follows. 1. When GPM is less than 10%, payment shall be 15% share of gross profits. 2. When GPM is between 10 to 40%, payment shall be 25% share of gross profits. 3. When GPM is above 40%, payment shall be 35% share of gross profits. And further resolved, the board approves and authorizes the executive director to distribute the operating concession fee as follows. 1. Gross proceeds shall fund WAPA expenses. Expenses include, but are not limited to, A. Board fees and expenses. B. Office of the Executive Director salaries, fees, and expenses. C. Master at Arms salaries, fees, and expenses. D. WAPA Board committee and subcommittee fees and expenses. E. Acquiring external professional services. 2. Net proceeds shall fund A. The fund, and B. WAPA approved public benefit related expenses and projects managed by not-for-profit WINC. And further resolved that the executive director shall present a budget to the board within 30 days of this resolution, covering the distribution of the gross and net proceeds as noted previously. And further resolved, the board authorizes the executive director to establish an escrow account to hold funds identified for deposit into the fund. The fund is approved by the board. And further resolved that the board's sponsor to the finance committee shall form a working group and executive board resolution 69 addressing how funds are placed into the fund. How the escrow established is in the resolution is transferred to the fund. Protection of the principal over the long term, use of the fund to stimulate the investment in WAPA's master plan, and other specifics necessary for establishing prudent investment principles for management of the fund while maximizing WAPA's value. And further resolved that the Finance Committee shall present the fund to the full board within 120 days of approval of this resolution. And further resolved that the Finance Committee shall manage the escrow and report at each monthly WAPA board meeting the escrow income and expenses until such a time the fund is established. And further resolved that the concession fee schedule authorized in this resolution focuses solely on the operating concession and does not change any other potential related revenue due WAPA, such as other concessions, royalties from intellectual property, etc. In witness hereof, the undersigned duly qualified WAPA officers certified that the foregoing is true and correct copy of a resolution adopted at a legally convened meeting of the Weirton Area Port Authority held on June 24th, 2015.
Okay, can I have a motion? Well, yeah, that would be the discussion of 14, right? The motion to discuss it and the motion to executive session for further discussion. The motion to discuss, we'll discuss 14 on here right now.
I'll motion to discuss 14.
Second.
Second.
Vote. Second. All right. So this is a discussion. What Dan's got is some slides for a summary and explanation of what the concession fees are and on.
Okay, so basically go through this quickly to give you an idea of what this resolution, kind of breaking it down into something that way to easily understand so the public can understand exactly what's happening here. WAPA collects concession fees from companies awarded a concession. Concession is a long-term contract granting a company certain business rights. Fees are not a tax; they are part of the concession contract. It's kind of like the opportunity to do business with us, so to speak. The concession gives the company the ability to leverage the value of the concessions, thus increasing the company's value for financing. Fees support WAPA's governance and provides resources for public benefit through the mechanisms such as the Future Fund. Basically, what this is breaking this down is, what the Port Authority is doing is helping to add value by helping to rebuild the infrastructure and put these companies in a position so that we can help them through either tax breaks or the opportunity to do things with the infrastructure that we build, and to build an infrastructure that will attract businesses to come to this area and do business through us. There's a lot of benefit for working with us, and that's where the concessions kind of come into play. Anybody have anything to add or any questions?
Three more slides.
Yep. Okay. Oh, you get it? Okay, thank you. What is the Future Fund? Now, this is what I love, and I actually the name isn't real creative, which I really like. It's simple because that's what this is for, and this is one of the things that I think is phenomenal about what we're building here. What the Future Fund is a formal investment instrument with contributions being protected. It's a special trust fund allocated for the public benefit projects approved by the WAPA board. Principal is protected with a minimum balance, increases omnibus value, thus increasing the bond rate. Now, the bond rates are very, very important because the bond rates that we have as an entity, the higher the grade, the more likely it is that businesses will want to come here and do business with us. Plus, the lending instruments that we're going to be able to provide and be able to utilize. The higher the bond grade, the better rates we're going to be able to have access to, and the more we're going to be able to utilize. Now, the Future Fund we're trying to think of some ways to break this down. Me personally, my background is personal finance, and I deal with people on a regular basis that actually most people are in a situation where they're spending. Pretty much everything is coming in. And unfortunately, our government is the epitome of that. So my role, great, it's on the internet now, but my role in the lives of the people I have a working relationship with is to sit down with them and help them to realize that if they continue to go down this path, they're either going to have to work forever and work till they're no longer on the face of this planet, or they need to start doing something about it. They need to start investing into assets. And the definition of an asset is something that can provide an income stream. That's what the Future Fund is doing. It's providing. It's like a flywheel. It's really tough to get going, but once we get it going, it's not just going to help to keep the Port Authority operating and attracting the right people to the board and attracting these companies locally to do business with us. It's also going to allow us to go back to the community, and because what we're about is for public benefit. Me personally, my stake in this from the very beginning is I want to turn this town back into what it should be. Make it better than it was before. It's put my daughters in a position that they don't have to leave here to find work. They can stay here if they choose to. And that's just my personal view on it. But the way it needs to be viewed is this is our opportunity to do something for the community, not just rebuild the infrastructure, but not to just do that piece and have industry come in, to allow us to build above and beyond just what we're talking about today. This is something that's going to continue to grow and to be able to put us in a position where we're going to have a community that other people are going to flock to, they're going to want to come to. And that's what this area should be for those of you that are
that live here and love this place like we do. You know, this is our opportunity to rebuild this area as a whole. Now, is this the new one? All right. Why is the future fund significant to the surrounding community? Well, the public has input to how the funds will be used for the WAPA-related projects. So we want to have the community involved. We want leaders within the community to be work with us in the working groups. You know, to serve on the board, to work with the companies, to work with the Port Authority. We also want the public to come back to us and say, here's what we need, here's what we want, and we hear this is what you're doing, why are you doing that, and how can we make it better? We want that feedback, because this is the opportunity for everyone to be involved. Through the public hearing process, kind of like these meetings, exactly these meetings we're doing right now. Unfortunately, we have a lot of empty seats in here, but eventually when this takes off, these seats will be full and we'll probably have to take on more rooms. You know, and those who are online, I hope that more people watch this. Volunteers' participation to the working groups, like I mentioned, the use of interest allocated specifically for investment in public benefit infrastructure and transportation projects. You know, it's the infrastructure that's going to allow us the industry to grow. And we're across the country it's failing. It's not just here. You know, what this is going to allow us to do is to help to rebuild that so that we can increase the amount of businesses that are going to work here and want to come here and want to do business in the Weirton area again. The use of principal is prohibited except in an emergency and certain other restricted events. Now what that means is the government, the way that they usually use money is everything that comes in goes out again, and everything that comes in goes out again. And unfortunately, sometimes the people in those situations, they get used to that. It's a habit. It's a habit that they form. People in their individual investments do the same thing. What we're trying to do is, like I spoke to earlier, we need to build a fund and utilize that fund. Hopefully, use the interest off that fund, the asset is going to produce as these concession fees come in, you know, and the income to the fund, to use that to do these projects and to expand on that. What this says, this bottom piece here, is we need to make sure that we put the right pieces in place to make sure that that fund is not just going to be here for us. This fund isn't just for us. In my mind, I see it more personally at my personal level as I want this to be the fund that my children are going to be able to take advantage of and the next generations after that. You know, so and personally, that's just how I looked at it. I look at it and I see this as a phenomenal opportunity. And I hope that all of you are as excited about it as we are. And I think a lot of it has to do with, personally, I think the problem with our country financially is lack of education. And I think the reason the port maybe hasn't had as many people in the seats as they should is a lack of education or lack of understanding. And that's what we're here to do and to provide. Okay, how is the future fund sustained? The future fund is sustained by quarterly payments of concession fees. That's the contracts that we have with the companies that we're working with. We also have to protect principal over the long term, similar to North Dakota's legacy fund, which they use that for education. Now Alaska's permanent fund, that was an easy one. You know, there's a lot of oil being produced out of there, and what they do is they give it back to the community in the form of dividends to the residents. Basically, they write them checks. Norway, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, this one is the true investment. You know, and I think this is the one that we want to try to be like more than anything else. Because what they do is they invest in the future of their infrastructure and the future of their country, and they use it as an investment. Meaning, when they put money towards something, they expect to get money back with interest. So put back into that fund to go out to the next area and be able to invest in that area or invest in that next project, so that that project can pay that money back with interest and move on. Now, the future fund is a managed fund allowing investment within certain defined parameters. Now, one of the things that I really like about this as well is we're going to define the parameters so that this fund is investing in the right areas and that there's no chance of it going in the wrong direction or being put in a tough situation or put in a precarious situation. In my industry, stop checks for every single step I take is overseen by multiple levels. We plan to do the same thing with this so that it can sustain and be here for generations to come.
That's it.
That's it, right? All right.
Okay, so,
Guess that now.
yeah.
Dan, can I get you a cup of coffee?
Hey, when I get the microphone, I get energy.
I see that.
So that was a summary of 114, I believe.
Yes.
Cool.
113 is the one we really need to be in executive session to discuss, right? We need to announce that now. We'll motion for executive session. All right, so let's make I need a motion for executive session. Motion. Second. Farley, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna go into executive session, we'll come back out. We will vote on these when we come back out, we'll explain anything we can explain that's public. And then we'll finish the presentation and have our questions. Okay? Okay, we're gonna come back from executive session, so can I get a motion? Okay.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor of returning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're back from executive session. We discussed some personnel and private financing details under Resolution 113. And we're going to vote on the resolution here right now on this. We don't have any other discussions here publicly. I don't think we did this on this. So can I get a motion to discuss and vote on Resolution 113?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We had discussions already. All in favor of passing 113, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record show Resolution 113 passed, and that is credit facility authorization. The next item we had is 114, which is operating concession. And we did that, again, was captured in the slides about the future funds and others. So I think we already did motion to discuss this. So do I just need to call for a vote on
Yes.
114
Yes.
since we already?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
open it up for
Yeah, because I
discussion.
think we did that one first. All right, so all in favor of passing resolution 114, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so let the record show resolution 114 passed. All right, MJ, next slide. So we can go through these, Dan. Okay, keep performance, put it in the presentation format. About some of the performance indicators and progress updates. So what we have up here today is for the governance side under the key performance indicators. We're up to 7 meetings in 2015 for a total of 61 so far. 117 total resolutions from conception, and we have 5 in committee. The attendance, we've been holding pretty steady until last month was Memorial Day, which was 18, and this month is a little bit like 2. Facebook likes, we broke 500. We get about 7, 8, 9, 10 a month, up to 508. With YouTube, where our presentations and our meetings are, we had 55 last month who viewed the meeting, and we have all the training is up to 134 in the training certifications. Terminal operations is that metal processing. So in June, 253,400 pounds was processed out of the building.
Okay, so you get 350 on
That's nice. Okay, this is, I don't know if everybody can see this, but this is the perimeter restoration plan. So this is the MBS property. The property line for MBS is here. And there's a common use area, which will be the perimeter road. But it's heavily eroded, severely eroded on these 2 ends and moderately eroded in the middle. A lot of the work that Farley's done and the construction guys have done, putting the silt fences up and managing the water flow. But this is a key aspect for the perimeter road. For inside the property, it's going to be controlled access, security, and up the perimeter road for other traffic, for exits and use. And we've followed various terminal rules and regulations, minimum operating standards, on establishing demo, grub, shape, survey, paint, and scrap permits, all the work permits, internal work orders, with certificate of acceptance job plan, and service tariff and fee income. I don't know if you can you see this out here with the lights on? This is the back of the building facing west. Here is the property and fence line. It will come here to a gate. And so this will be where, when you're servicing or delivering or picking up from the building, you'll be into the property, into the secured area. if you're traversing the property as a perimeter road, just to pass the facility, exit or in, it'll be back here, outside the fence. Yeah, so here's a top view of the facility with the internal cells, warehousing, sorting, and loading and unloading. The doors are depicted here. And what you see in the colors is two different choices for parking of the trailers that are parking down there now, because it's, at some point soon we're going to be working on this side of the parking lot, and they're parked over here, so we have to move them. So diagonal's a 30-degree angle. These yellow ones are back to back, and I think diagonal was 24.
Can I intercede with?
Yeah. Go ahead.
We've all heard of tenant agreements, but probably the one that is least understood is called a common carrier access agreement. Farley with Rhett has been working for well over a year now. We have 2 embedded common carriers at this facility right now that want to expand operations, but we have to, because of the major construction work on the west side of the property and the seawall. We have to move them around inside this space and park the trailers and house the trailers and hospitality services. You can see right there, that's what the joint looks like right now. We had to move them out of the back to get the south side under construction. Now we're getting ready to move them back into the south side as it's through its grading and everything else. So that's what you're seeing here. This is covered under the concessionaire through a vehicle called common carrier access agreements that are very extensive into hospitality services and all the other things. We have ATM machines and all that stuff that we have to provide on site for the drivers.
Yeah, and this is examples of the, what do you call it, Farley?
Stormwater management.
Stormwater management. It's an early stage. What we've done is we've been able to stop all the water flow from the upper deck that ends up rolling down in through Stavages across the brownfield and into the river by controlling the water up on top and then building a kind of a containment ditch until we get the full stormwater system in. But we stopped all the water from our property by running it through silt fences and down into a pocket or a pool.
And that ditch is up
That's up
there,
there, yeah.
right?
So it's at the bottom of a hill. There's just a big area for water to build up without hitting Stavages.
Now, to give you some idea on this property, because we now have, since the marine terminal, with the bringing on board with Farley and the engineers, we now have a stormwater management model, and it creates what we can estimate to be in the flows through this size facility. And the numbers, Farley, I'm not going to quote you, but I'll let you, do you remember any of the numbers?
Well, on a moderate storm event of 2 inches, we're producing outflows of 5,000 gallons a minute.
It's 2 barrels.
And on a typical year, this relatively small site will be producing anywhere from 11 to 12 million gallons of discharge per year.
That's a few swimming pools for you in the residential area. This is when it rains, that sump down fills to the brim, and it's the size of a mediocre swimming pool that you would put in your backyard. And that rained yesterday, that lasted 10 minutes. It filled that sump pump all the way to the brim. There's 2.5 acres of road and 10 acres of, it's not an understood how much water the Appalachian region collects on just a simple water flow. And so the erosion slide that you had up there a minute ago, moderate.
The erosion, so that's all.
Yeah, poor old Weirton Steel, their property's long, we estimated it's down about San Luis Potosi in the Gulf.
That's their property back here, it's just been washed away.
And
And the
there's
property line,
significant property loss over the decades. This system wasn't managed, because it's an extensive underground system that was built in there back in the 50s in architecture, but it's now since been discovered.
And it is repairable. We don't know. They have to send in the robots and figure out what's underground and everything else before we alter.
What we have seen so far gives us pretty good optimism.
So we can salvage a lot of office and maintenance. Got it.
Now, this
But
is,
we've only got very small glimpses at it.
Yeah.
We'll be exploring that more in the near future.
The other part, when this was designed long before even myself was architect, this is when the sewers were run into the stormwater systems. And there's a leach, what's called a leach field that has to be removed, and a septic field that has to be removed from this site. In other words, Jimmy's, when he was
Why
growing
would the
up,
leach field need to be, the septic, I understand, but the leach field itself, isn't that just to disperse the?
no, it's leaking, no, it's leaking into the stormwater, so you've got fecal contamination in the leach field. All leaking into the stormwater channel.
they covered it with asphalt, and that was it. We still don't, not to, again, I don't want to get in front of the engineers, but it won't matter, I'll get in front of them anyway, but nevertheless. When the city water systems came in was on the Birch Drive side of this. And what occurred is when we're assuming, we can't validate everything until they get all of the things, and then we get Jimmy down there to run through the pipes. He fits very nicely in the pipes. Busy guy. But when they switched it over onto the city's sewer system, they did it on the Birch Drive side. We don't know exactly how they did that, but what they did when they did that is the rain collection systems for that addition to the building is actually now mixed in with the city's sewer system. All right, so there's quite a bit of engineering that has to take place when we widen the road out on the Birch Drive side.
Yeah.
That's
Because we're going to be putting in, Farley's going to be putting in the road system that's going to take all the rain that's coming down that road now and flooding out the marine terminal. And it's going to go down underground into the new system. So there's quite a bit of engineering that has to take place on that north side.
So there won't be any impact to the city sewer system once you get rid of the leach field, correct? It won't overrun.
No, the handling of the city is going to be done through an intergovernmental agreement on the MS4s. Because we have both the city and the state, because it's a state road, that is actually using the terminal system to disperse the water, and vice versa.
Yep.
You know, depending on how we separate, we had the building off the grid, quote unquote, now for a month.
3 weeks.
Yeah, about 3 weeks. And so getting it off the grid was a monumental first step. The effects that we'll have, if anything, in a very layman's term, is instead of running our rain runoff from the road into the city's system, we're going to redivert that, put it into the storm system, so, you know, it's a little more active. But this is a major component of this whole restoration piece. As we saw with the superstructure, it's financeable. This stormwater, as Farley said, until we get it all uncovered. We do know this satellite imagery is the river side of it is still intact in some condition. But the Hatfield McCoy, there's a demarc line down there before we open up the river side of it. We got to contract the divers, we got to get sonar on this side to figure out where the 200-foot pier goes. And they've got to do everything that we got set up on the north side. That whole side down here, we did not sonar, and we did not put divers on this side to recover this side of the seawall. But this is the main terminal B seawall, that 200-foot section.
This is a slide, there's also an easement that runs from, it's a Sigma National Steel easement that runs from the property up here for stormwater and industrial water back up. So there was actually 3 pools, detention ponds in there, that'll get grubbed again, so that means the trees never gets out of the way, so they can see what's there. And then from that easement down here, and then there's the seawall. So that allows access.
And there's also intakes in that to come back up the hill for the industrial water support, include fire suppression.
And powers.
So it is a utility. We're not treating this as a standard utility. because of tax purposes, but it'll have extensive work done on that day.
I don't think this is on. Williams, he's asking, Williams needs water from the river. I think it's further up.
Well, not from this one, that's on the other side.
Okay, do you have that stormwater slide? Stormwater picture?
Not handy.
That's not in the list. So that was all the presentation for this month. We did the executive session, so I'll open it up for everyone in the audience or the board or anybody else to ask some questions on anything you want today.
I have one final observation. The chairman, as you heard about the Transportation Research Board, involved in DC, since we've all been together, some of the new board members, but since we started this back in 2011, the Transportation Research Board of the United States government has reconstituted itself and funded itself, and it's a significant oversight for the push inland to these waterways. So getting representation on that TRB was a significant, we're not there yet, but at least, I think they were from Alaska for PG, but nevertheless. Second part of that was a... Yeah, Tom's there. Wakeman did our resiliency study. The second part of that is internal to the state of West Virginia. There's been a group, BJ, correct me if I'm wrong, BJ's been invited to participate with Senator Ferns for...
On Friday, yes, it's Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse. And they're getting and helping with the legal tort reform stuff and getting citizen involvement and understanding it. I think Friday, I don't remember where it is, but I invited them to here because they have a speaking tour, but they weren't able to make it to this meeting. But Friday at Wheeling, Ryan Ferns is sponsoring their presentation and discussion. I just don't have the, I guess, I don't have, yeah.
But it was an invite. The point I'm bringing it up with the board, and I'm also bringing it up for the community here. We certainly have been the poster child for, what do they call it?
Lawsuit abuse.
Frivolous lawsuits, all right? And the lawyers get all mad at me with that. It's something less that can make a change.
Yeah.
Because enforcement of statutory laws is mixed into this beginning. But this is the first time in the 8 years that I've been in West Virginia that there's a group that's actually assembling themselves that can voice in a organized fashion, how do we change our laws to make them more business friendly? That's the main thing we're dealing with here, is frivolous lawsuits in a business environment can be crippling to a business, and not to mention how much it's added on its overheads.
And they've been talking about tort reform and everything else, so the group's timing and establishment and working is perfect because they'll have a lot of people back to the legislature and things like that.
Yeah, but it does not state a location, it just gives the website.
I'll post it, we'll find it.
Yeah, this is something I want the board to be aware of, I want the audience to be aware of, is that there are reform pieces that we're seeing. And they're significant in legal, how do you use the legal system? A lot of the frustration that we hear with, what's occurring here and everything else. But this is how it begins. And so we're going to be, in DC, the research board, we're going to be very, very active on that because we've got at least 5 years on that river down there. Figuring out what's what with encroached property, encumbered property, and all of the other little things that we've collectively run into. So these are things that are starting to show signs of seeds popping out of the ground.
Now, this last thing I asked MJ to put up, that's the actual blueprint with an overlay, the blueprint of the stormwaters. And the overlay, you can actually see some of the lines and some of the manholes. And that's what's there today, that's just not in use.
It's a 100-foot drop from the grade at the distribution center. When we put Jimmy in that top manhole, he ought to pop out of that thing on that river if it's still in state and end up in Steubenville.
One hell of a water slide.
It's a 100-foot straight down slide.
But I just thought it was interesting to actually
Yeah.
have the blueprint of the stormwater system.
And
part of it, this
that
little-
blueprint is dated 1952.
And that goes, oh, it's bigger than that, that's just the property, it goes up to the hill, all the way up.
That goes all the way up to, when they added Capitol and Palisades, it's, all those drawings were recovered.
Yeah.
How that system interacts and comes into the park, all of the restoration of the park is going to service those residents on top of that hill.
All right, well, I don't, there's any questions out there? We don't have
Come on,
one.
Les, you gotta have, where's your comment?
Where's Joe? He always has 3 or 4 videos.
Stanley.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of information.
All right.
All right, well, if no questions, I guess I just need a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Up on that table up there, those are called white books. All right? Every entity within the Weirton Area Port Authority, inclusive to the Weirton Area Port Authority, has a very comprehensive white book. It is the legal corporate books that run these companies, filed with the state secretary. We have, and on top of the white books, there's what's called a yellow book that's created that audits all these books, what we can prove on and where we can prove. Those are all the operating, how the companies run, whether they're for-profits or not-for-profits, and that's all managed through ISL. They're significant, as you can see up there, some of them are tri-state link, are very, very significant. Les asked the question earlier is, can we get a copy of it? The budget that we have, Les, we did the initial white book 2 months ago on tri-state port management to distribute it. We built, how many copies, 10?
We did 7.
7 copies, and it was $500. So you better have a good reason to FOIA me, Les.
I also.
Or you better have a healthy printer.
But we forgot one other thing, and I want to get it on in the meeting, even though it's outside the minutes. Bethany and I recused from voting on Resolution 113 because I'm a lobbyist for ISL, and she's going to work for ISL. So we didn't vote on that, but we were supposed to say that before we voted, and I don't typically vote anyway. We didn't announce it like we were supposed to explain it. I wanted to make sure that got on the video and on the record.
It's in the minutes.
Adjourn again. Adjourn again, let's adjourn again.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.